Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. The Biden administration has just announced they're going to reopen land borders to fully vaccinated travelers next month. Up till now, vehicle, rail, and ferry travel between the United States and its neighbors Canada and Mexico has been largely restricted to essential activity. For the past 9 months, the Biden administration has been restricting legal entry into the United States. And at the same time, they've been allowing hundreds of thousands or perhaps millions of illegal, undocumented, and unvaccinated immigrants into the country. So apparently the Biden administration believes that only people with legal immigration status can spread the virus. Additionally, the Biden administration says that it's racist to ask people of color to obtain an ID. But they're requiring people who want to enter the country legally from Mexico to produce a vaccine passport. Meanwhile, the president says he's going to require a vaccine identification card for every working American by the end of the year, even though he believes it's racist to ask people of color to obtain an identification card. At the current rapid rate of decline, the number of cases in the United States by the end of November should be quite low. This would be the end of November, and then Biden wants to implement his vaccine mandate sometime after that. It isn't clear what he'll be vaccinating against. The Delta variant will be largely over at that time, and we have no way of knowing whether or not the vaccine would be effective against any future variants. Joe Biden and other leading Democrats also said last year that they wouldn't trust a vaccine which was approved by the federal government.
Skeptical American public about taking the vaccine, and they should be.
We can't trust the president and take his word and take a vaccine that might cause harm to us.
If and when the vaccine comes, and it's not likely to go through all the tests that needs to be and the trials that are needed to be done.
Let's just say there's a vaccine that is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?
Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us.
When we finally do, God willing, get a vaccine, who's going to take the shot? Who's going to take the shot?
We will need to have access to the vaccine results so we can make our independent assessment to make sure that Donald Trump's fingerprints are not on it.
You can be the first one to say, sign me up. They now say it's okay.
Is the vaccine safe? Frankly, I'm not going to trust the federal government's opinion. And I wouldn't recommend to New Yorkers based on the federal government's opinion.
So Joe Biden doesn't trust the vaccine, but at the same time he's forcing it on all American workers. And the Biden administration is shutting down fossil fuels and making them unaffordable for the poor and the middle class. The goal seems to be to freeze as many poor and middle class people as possible now in order to protect them against imaginary global warming 20 years in the future. Nothing the Biden administration is doing makes any sense, and it's not supposed to. Theodore Dalrymple explained this. In my study of communist societies, I came to the conclusion that the purpose of communist propaganda was not to persuade or convince, not to inform, but to humiliate, and therefore the less it corresponded to reality, the better. The purpose of communism was always to put 90% of the population into slavery, while the other 10% lived very well off of their labors. The last thing these slave owners want is an educated, enlightened, and empowered citizenry. Thus, they're attempting to massively humiliate us on every front with nonsensical propaganda and nonsensical policies. Toto knows that the people behind these scams aren't stupid and that they have a very specific agenda. You can visit Toto, Kyrie, and Caesar on the web at RealClimateScience.com.